So this will be the first review I do standing up. Normally I do my reviews sitting down, and this feels very awkward because I'm tempted to lean, so pardon me and pardon the shitty lighting as well. Yo guys, what's up? My name is Judge Prime, the ITK, here again with another video. Now today we are talking about Quentin Miller's debut album, Gunmetal Grey. Now Quentin Miller, I'm sure a lot of people in the hip-hop world will know him as Drake's ghostwriter. Now I'm not going to go into that whole quagmire because I have some feelings on it. I'm sure a number of my viewers don't share. And, you know, I'm just going to avoid that whole Drake and Quentin Miller thing, even though it's hard to avoid listening to this album. Coming on this new record is 8 tracks long, actually 9, it has a bonus track. I will say this record reminds me an awful lot about If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. Even some of the bars on this album could be interpreted as references to Drake. So the album opens with the track Grey Leather. I love the simple production on this. It has a lovely sample. I think something that Quentin Miller does well, especially on this project, is he has a great ear for samples and working these samples quite well. He talks also about rappers these days doing it for the numbers and the views, and people debating if he is the greatest. Now, I don't know, I could also interpret this as a kind of casual shot at Drake, because a lot of people have said Drake can't be involved in that greatest MC discussion because he has a ghostwriter or has had ghostwriters. I like to say that I love the production. Again, the production is a standout feature on this album. This track sort of cuts off abruptly to this kind of, I don't know if it's an interlude or it's basically a construction scene, and this theme plays throughout the album. Basically, you have this construction theme. You're hearing like basically the sounds that you would hear at a construction site. This leads to the next track, Expression 3. Basically, you could say this track has a piano ballad with some boom bap production. I like the simplicity. Again, on this track, again, Quentin Miller is thanking people for helping him even though they didn't do it intentionally, and he talks about not recognizing the person who he has become. The next track, Look at What I Did, basically this track is just, you know, like bragging, a braggy type track that you'd expect from every other rapper. He also talks about his daughters. He talks about his daughters on a couple of tracks on here. Basically on this track he's saying he hopes his daughters don't end up with a guy like him. Now, before I round up the rest of the tracks, I will say there are things I loved on this album and things I hated. The things I loved on this album, again, the production is something I love. It's very emotive, quite dark, at times minimalistic. The sampling on here is quite superb. I think Quentin Miller has a great ear for beats and also can create very compelling and very, you know, moody beats. I think that's something he's very good at. The drawbacks, I think, are the general drawbacks that people have when discussing or talking about Quentin Miller's music, which is his delivery. Now, in my honest opinion, I think to be a rapper, you need 2 out of 3 things, which are your lyrics, your flow, and the melody. You can do with 2 out of the 3. Now, Quentin Miller has the melody down. He doesn't have the greatest delivery or even the lyrics, in my personal opinion. Yeah, sure, he has, you know, songs, and sure, he can construct some bars. But when you listen to this project, you notice that most of the tracks don't run for over 2 minutes 50 max. And even the lyrics are awfully repetitive. They don't really delve in and tell you a complete story. There are times on here I wish Quentin Miller had really sat down and fleshed out the lyrics of many, if not all, of the tracks on this album. Gunmetal Babes, he talks about his prosthetic leg. He had an accident, I think it was last year, in which he had to amputate a leg of his. I will say I love the vibe of this track. It feels like, you know, I got the feeling of an old Western movie. I also got some heavy blues vibes on this track as well. My favorite track on this is Gold. You have a lot of soul searching from Quentin Miller on this track. The production, the beat of this track is just phenomenal, in my opinion. And basically he's saying, you know, you can't take his soul from him. He is gold, and, you know, it feels very upbeat, and it just feels like, you know, accomplished, complete just a holistic ending. Last track, Turning 27, basically on this track, Quentin Miller reflects upon his life, reflects on everything that has happened. This is kind of a tribute to himself as he turns 27. So overall, I would say this album is very reflective, very sentimental, very emotive, very touching. It has a very good mood and aesthetic to it. I love the vibe and the feel, like I said, of this album. My problems with this album revolve around, you know, the sort of sloppy and laziness of this album. A lot of these tracks feel like they haven't been mastered properly. The lyrics haven't been fully fleshed out. And the songs end abruptly, and overall I will say Quentin Miller, I think, and this is no shots towards him, but I think he should be a producer or just be someone who is, you know, a ghostwriter or a collaborator. He doesn't on this album show me anything that tells me this guy can actually do it as a rapper. As a producer, yes. As a collaborator making reference tracks, which all of these tracks on here feel like reference tracks. They feel like demos. They feel like incomplete thoughts that you just make when you go in the studio and you're on a vibe and you're just saying, you know, a few things that come to you, but not really giving you a story or something holistic at the end of it. Now, will I say this album is trash? No, I quite enjoy it, and it has been an album I've gone back to. Overall, I give this a 6/10. If Quentin Miller can, within the time frame to his next project, do a phenomenal turnaround in terms of his delivery and his lyrics, then he could definitely be in the contention with the likes of, you know, the 21 Savages, Lil Uzis, and whatever in terms of popularity. Besides that, I don't see him being very much popular. In fact, this album doesn't seem to be creating any buzz in terms of the fans or whatever. I really wish Quentin would do more. I really want him to succeed, but this album doesn't do very much in terms of the lyrical and delivery aspect for it. He needs to work harder. He needs to present a more polished and finished product if people are really going to rock with his music. So those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think about this album. Have you given it a listen? What are your thoughts on Quentin Miller? Leave them down in the comments below. My name is Judge Prime. Sorry for the shitty lighting. You guys will just have to, you know, bear with me as I continue to make improvements on this channel. And I think that's it. Is that it? Yeah. More reviews. This week you guys are going to have a lot of reviews because I've been slacking, but I need to catch up. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.